Let's take a look at what's taking place in our country today. You have a man who's elected president of the United States, and virtually from the get-go, an investigation is open because he fired the director of the FBI, who should have been fired. Director of the FBI was in charge of managing that operation. Look what the deputy director of the FBI was doing. He's now under criminal investigation. He was fired. Look what Mr. Stroke was doing. He was under Inspector General's investigation and was recently fired. All this occurred under Comey, and Comey was leaking. And Comey was setting up the president of the United States. Now, the Democrats wanted Comey out. If Hillary had been elected president, she would have fired Comey because Comey, they argue, threatened her campaign. And in the end, they argue, cost her campaign. The Democrats wanted Comey out. Trump fires Comey for cause. That triggers the appointment of a special counsel, which Comey said he wanted and had lobbied for and pushed for. The Attorney General of the United States recuses himself on the most outrageous basis because he bumped into the ambassador of Russia at the Republican National Committee convention, because he met with the Russian ambassador one time and so forth and so on. He didn't recollect those points at the time of his confirmation testimony. He was involved in a tangential way in the Trump campaign, so he says, I'll recuse myself. Disastrous. So the power in this area moves to Rosenstein. Rosenstein had his first job as a federal prosecutor in the Public Integrity Unit of the Criminal Division. The person who was in charge of the Public Integrity Unit of the Criminal Division was Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller then effectively hired Rosenstein. Rosenstein appoints Mueller. Rosenstein is the one who should have recused himself because he wrote a memo to the Attorney General of the United States, Sessions, who passed it on to the President of the United States, encouraging the firing of Comey. He appoints Mueller as the special counsel. The former FBI director, who had just been interviewed by Trump, who turned him down as the new FBI director. And it turns out Comey and Mueller are best friends. They have at least one godchild between them. Their careers go back together many decades. At one point, Comey was Deputy Attorney General of the United States under Bush, and Mueller was the director of the FBI under Bush. Very close. So there was never going to be an objective investigation. Mueller had no intention of treating Comey as Comey should have been treated. And Mueller reports to Rosenstein, who should have recused himself. Now they go after Manafort on old allegations of criminal activity involving taxes and bank accounts and so forth. A case that could have easily been handled out of the Eastern District of Virginia in the U.S. Attorney's Office. As a matter of fact, most of the men who were involved in prosecuting that case came out of that office. So Mueller wasn't needed for any of that. Mr. Stroke, who has since been fired for unethical activity, he decides to circle back and go after Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, conducting an interview, catching him in a false statements trap. Whereas before, the FBI interviewed Flynn and said he didn't recollect, it wasn't a crime. And this is thrown all over TV. President Trump's first national security advisor committed a felony. Got this guy Papadopoulos under the most preposterous circumstances. False statement. That's low-hanging fruit, that false statement statute. false statement that the government accuses them of not just lying to investigators, but misleading them. That's the test, misleading them. And so in order to fight these charges, they go broke. Flynn is broke. He sold his house, has nothing. And I'm sure Papadopoulos is too. So they pled. Look at that. We got Papadopoulos. We got Flynn. What else do you got? Well, you got all these Russians. We indicted them for trolling, for conspiracy to defraud our election. Okay, where are they? They're overseas. You can't even get them in our courtroom. It's an indictment without physical defendants. What else? Well, we got Gates. We got a few of these other guys. Then, apparently, Mueller comes across Cohen issues. Well, what issues does he come across on Cohen? Tax medallion issues? For taxis? Well, how did Mueller come across those? Failure to pay federal income taxes for Cohen? Well, was Mueller investigating Cohen, the president's private attorney? He sends that to the Southern District of New York. One of the senior lawyers who works in the Southern District of New York in charge of their public integrity section has been sent to work for Mueller. So these offices are very, very tight. Comey used to work in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. So now they go after Cohen, and Cohen's an easy target. He's a moron. He's doing all these unethical things. He's evading taxes. He's got something going on with these taxi medallions. Doesn't pay his taxes from 2012 to 26. The idiot doesn't even pay his taxes. He lies on mortgage loans. Okay, fine. Now we got, these campaign issues. Now, this is something that's come up months and months and months ago. These campaign issues. Non-disclosure agreements. All of a sudden, Lanny Davis pops up. Everybody knows Lanny Davis. They know what a sleazeball the guy is. Now they cut a deal on tax fraud, on bank loan fraud, and 2 campaign issues. And Lanny Davis is running around talking about those 2 campaign issues. Not the other stuff that really has his client in trouble. No, the 2 campaign issues. Cohen pled on 2 non-existent crimes that the prosecutor insists are crimes, but he doesn't dare go to trial to try them out. Now we're told that this is an abasement for impeaching the President of the United States. What is the basis for impeaching the President of the United States? Well, these non-disclosure agreements. Well, they don't break the law. He used his own money. Well, it doesn't matter. Look at that. Cohen pled. So now that Cohen pled plea bargain to cut a deal with his lawyer, Lanny Davis, and the prosecutors in the Southern District of New York associated with Mr. Mueller's office, that's a basis for impeachment? Stick with me, because I'm not done. Well, there's more. Mr. Mueller, Mr. Rosenstein appoints to investigate Russian interference with our election and colluding with the Trump campaign. Not colluding with any campaign, with the Trump campaign. So already, Hillary and her crowd is immunized. They're out. Even though Mueller has requested the expansion of his investigation to include tax issues, bank issues, the Manhattan Madam, even though he's expanded his investigation in 15 different directions, he refuses to request to expand his investigation to cover anything that was done by the DNC, the Hillary campaign, any of their lawyers, period. And Mr. Rosenstein, who can do it on his own, he refuses to. Okay. But Mr. Mueller says to himself, I really don't have anything on Trump. Unless Unless I go back to defending my buddy Comey. And not just Comey. That we find out if the President of the United States was trying to obstruct our investigation. What? I mean, you got 17 lawyers, all of whom you picked. You probably have 2-3 dozen FBI agents, all of whom you've picked. Nobody has stopped you from investigating anybody else. You've spent an enormous amount of resources. You've flown all over the world. God knows you've probably interviewed 300, 400, 500 witnesses. You got 1.4 pages, actual documents from the administration. Wow, that sounds like obstruction. No. You don't understand. The president has given multiple reasons for firing Comey. And perhaps for firing other people under his authority. We don't have an actual crime that the president committed because, after all, this was a counterintelligence investigation, not a criminal investigation early on, and it moved into a criminal investigation. So there's not a lot of criminal issues related to a counterintelligence investigation. So we need to criminalize something. So we're going to criminalize the president's firing of certain personnel. And we need to question the president about why he fired them, having now interviewed hundreds of witnesses, including the president's own White House counsel, Don McGahn, who's given us 30 hours of testimony on why the president did what he did. We need to talk to the president now, not to get to the truth, but to create a crime. We must create a crime. We don't have a crime. We have to create a crime. We got Flynn on false statements. We got Papadopoulos on false statements. It's low-hanging fruit. We need to create a crime. So this is what we need to do. We need to question the President of the United States about his firing decisions involving my dear friend Comey, involving Lieutenant General Flynn, or anybody else we want to talk about. We've got all this testimony from McGahn. We've got testimony from scores of other people the public don't even know. And we need to question the President of the United States on why he did that. But you know you can't indict a sitting president. No, we know that. In fact, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mueller has acknowledged that. We can't indict a sitting president of the United States. But you see, I'm Mr. Mueller and I'm Mr. Weissman. I'm this team of hitmen and hitwomen. We don't have to indict him formally. We have to lay out the case for impeachment charges. We'll get him by hook or by crook. We haven't disrupted our careers and moved into this temporary job and cut our pay. Me, Mr. Mueller, I used to make millions of dollars, and cut our pay to come up empty. Oh, I know these other. No. I'm a prosecutor. I'm not an objective mediator. I'm not an arbitrator. I'm not a judge. I prosecute people. And if we can't get Trump, because of these stupid memos from the Department of Justice that do not allow us to indict a sitting president, we will do what we have to do to remove this man from office. We will write our report. And if we subpoena the president, we'll fight it. But I'm starting to think, ladies and gentlemen, look, I could be wrong. I'm just like you. I'm trying to figure this stuff out. If I'm the prosecutor now, you know what I do? You know what I do, Mr. Producer? I don't subpoena the president. I just make my case for impeachment. I say, look, Trump said this publicly, and he said this publicly, but Mr. McGahn said this. Mr. Flynn said this. Mr. Flynn said that. Obviously. The President of the United States didn't want to be interviewed because he knows he would have obstructed justice. And in fact, that's what he attempted to do. And you give that to the Democrats. If they control the House of Representatives, they now hold up Mr. Mueller as the greatest lawyer the planet has ever known. Now, he might still go the subpoena route. Might still go the subpoena route to try and and claim that when a president asserts his constitutional prerogative to fire whomever he wants because they're his subordinates, that the president is doing that for cover-up purposes. And let me tell you something. As stupid as the media are, as ideologically left-wing as the media are, as absolutely psycho these Democrats who go on TV are, you got to believe the prosecutor might take that route. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.